Listen, I'm not one to judge. If somebody can bring me a cup of tea while I'm sitting there waiting to go on and film, I'm going to ask for that cup of tea. Of course I'm going to ask for it nicely because, you know, I'd like to be hired again. With that in mind, I'm Sean Ferrick for What Culture, and here are 6 unusual demands made by Lord of the Rings actors. Number 6. The cast insisted that John Rhys-Davies' stunt double got a tattoo. Brett Beatty was the stunt double who did most of the heavy lifting for the role of Gimli, while camera trickery was mainly responsible for catching all of the main Fellowship cast together on screen. Both Gimli and the Hobbits were portrayed by doubles for wider shots. However, Beatty did considerably more than many of the other actors. John Rhys-Davies, the tallest of the cast in real life, has frequently joked that a lot of the time Gimli is on screen, it isn't him, but Beatty in the part. There were a number of reasons, but also a health one. Rhys-Davies was allergic to the prosthetics used to create the dwarf, so tried to avoid wearing them for as much time as possible. When it came for the Fellowship cast to commemorate the work they had done together with a tattoo, Beatty was approached in Rhys-Davies' stead. This was fully supported by the actor, who agreed that Beatty had done so much of the work that he deserved recognition. Therefore, he is the only stunt double from the cast to have the Elvish script of 9 tattooed on his body. This, sadly, would be the biggest form of recognition that he would receive for many years, as the studio only billed him as stunt double in the credits. Number 5. Andy Serkis wanted to be Gollum on set, not just provide the voice. Now, this one might not seem like such a strange demand at all. Nowadays, don't all films that require mocap imagery encourage the performers to act on set, interacting with the other performers in a scene? Well, that was not quite the done thing when Andy Serkis arrived in New Zealand to play the dual role of Smeagol and Gollum. While motion capture technology wasn't invented for The Lord of the Rings, one could argue that it was perfected during the production period. Serkis devoted hours and hours of life to playing the villainous character on set, as he felt that standing to the side and shouting his lines for the other performers to react wouldn't capture the spirit of the scenes. So he asked to be physically part of the action, donning his mocap suit and running around like a controlled lunatic. This served not only to allow Serkis the best chance at delivery and provide the CGI team with an easier reference point, but also allowed actors like Sean Astin and Elijah Wood to delve deeper into each scene, as opposed to having Gollum's lines fed to them via a bullhorn. Number 4. Viggo Mortensen consistently asked for rewrites. Coming to the production later than most, Viggo Mortensen had been convinced to take on the role by his son, who was an enormous fan of the books. When he arrived in New Zealand, he became part of the collaborative process, by which much of the film scenes were devised once filming had begun. According to Sean Astin's autobiography of making the films, Mortensen became something of a pain in the backside to Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens. He apparently lived with the books, reading them over and over again, trying his best to understand the part of Aragorn. This led to his constant suggestions that tweaks could be made to the script to improve the character. While script revisions happened on many projects, this stemmed from the actor effectively going over the heads of the scriptwriters. Basically, he was using Tolkien's own works as a way to supersede them. Having said that, according to Astin, this was often well received by Jackson, who would often, though not always, take Mortensen's suggestions on board. Number 3. Sean Bean refused point blank to get into the helicopter. Sean Bean had a fear of flying, particularly when it came to helicopters. This became a bit of an issue when it came to location shooting for the Fellowship of the Ring, as many of the scenes involved high-rise shots in the mountains. Whether it was the snowy pass of Caradhras or the heights of Amon Hen, Boromir was needed, but Bean wasn't thrilled. He made somewhat strange request to be allowed to hike the distance each day. This was no mean feat, as filming locations were remote enough for the rest of the cast to be airlifted to the set. However, Bean simply refused to get to the chopper, so the producers were left with very few options but to allow it. The rest of the cast remembered fondly in interviews their sight of Bean in full costume, shield thrown over his shoulder, climbing up the mountain each day, huffing it up the hills as they passed him overhead in the helicopters. Perhaps, thanks to the physical nature of this daily hike, it was for the best that Boromir's role in the trilogy effectively came to a close amid a shower of arrows at the hands of the Uruk-hai in the Fellowship of the Ring. Number 2. Viggo Mortensen did not want a gelded horse. In an interview in 2006, Miranda Otto, who played Éowyn in the films, recounted her experiences with her horse. When asked if she had bought her horse to bring home with her, she answered that no, she hadn't. She then went on to reveal that she only received that horse because Viggo Mortensen didn't want him. Otto's steed was a gelding, which is to say that he had been neutered. Mortensen demanded a stallion for his scenes, as he felt it was more appropriate for Aragorn to ride one. This meant that this horse passed to Otto. She credited the horse as a beautiful soul who was a dream to work with, except for one little problem. When Otto had first met the horse, he was a smaller, more easily manageable creature. They were separated for some time, during which his new owner treated him very well. According to Otto, when he returned to the set, he'd been so well fed that he was nearly twice the size. However, despite that, she still found him to be a tame animal. And all of this because Viggo Mortensen had no interest in riding a gelding. Number 1. Christopher Lee demanded a rewrite of his murder. Veteran actor and former soldier Christopher Lee played the evil wizard Saruman in the trilogy. Much has been said about his removal from the theatrical release of The Return of the King, though thankfully his scenes were restored for the extended editions. This included a crucial scene: his murder. With the excising of the Scouring of the Shire chapter from the book, Saruman was to be stabbed in the back by Wormtongue atop Orthanc. Filming commenced, but Lee quickly demanded a change to the script. In the written version, Saruman would cry out in pain when Wormtongue plunged the knife into his back. Lee asked Peter Jackson if the director actually knew what sound a man made when being stabbed from behind. Slightly apprehensively, Jackson said that he didn't. Lee confirmed that he, in fact, did know. As Lee said, when the knife penetrated the lung, all the air would be forced out, so there could be no cry, merely a gasp. Jackson, thoroughly spooked, allowed the change in the script, and the scene exists as Lee intended in the complete version of The Return of the King. Now that's everything for our list today, folks. If you have anything you would love to add, please drop it into the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and remember that you can catch us over on Twitter at WhatCulture. You can catch myself at Sean Ferrick on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. You look after yourselves now until I'm talking to you again. You be kind to yourself, you stay safe, you stay well, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks very much.
Hello there everybody, Trek Culture's Adam Cleary here, just to hold my hands up really quickly and say, I've tried my best to replicate, duplicate, just outright clone our god editor Chris Thompson here, and I have failed. It's been absolutely disastrous. An affront to God, somebody called one of the efforts, so, do you know what? I give up. We're just going to have to hire a new video editor here at Trek Culture. And if you've been sitting at home watching this glorious channel thinking, I could do that, well, then prove it. Sunshine, there is an email address on screen right now. If you're interested in becoming part of the team, we want to see your show reels, we want to see your CVs, we want to hear what you can bring to this channel. And if you're good enough and we like you, maybe we'll get in touch and you too could be editing out the numerous mistakes I make in every single video. So yes, email address on screen now, CV, showreels, etc. Join us here on Trek Culture to boldly, I don't know, fix it in the edit. Goodbye.